Hi everyone. I am Jasmine, a psychotherapist and coach, and what I really enjoy doing is to guide people in creating a better life for themselves and their communities and still love their lives while doing it. And today I want to share a reframe that has really helped me move through life, and I am sensing it will do the same for you and might be helpful. So here we go. Life is actually a really good filter, but only if we are putting things through this filter. This sounds really simple, but for a lot of us, we never get to experience life as a filter because we stop before we even put anything in it. We overthink, we hold back, we decide in our own heads that the answer is going to be no, for example, before we have even asked the question. And this episode is about what it looks like to let life do more of the work and why it might be such a freeing thing for all of us to do. I want to share how I used to be in the past and still sometimes nowadays. I used to find it really scary to put things out in the world, to reach out to someone, to try something new, to create something and share it. And the fear underneath that was rejection, not the rejection of the thing. So for example, if I asked someone to hang out for coffee, it is not because I am afraid that I get rejected for coffee and therefore do not get to go on a coffee date. It is more the fear of a rejection of me deep down. Like, for example, if what I shared didn't land or I asked someone out on a date and they say no, it meant something about my worth. So because of that, I often hold back, or I waited until I was very sure of something before I put it out or ask someone. I filtered everything in my own head before it got to get to be presented somewhere. And what that meant was nothing moved, or it takes a really long time for something to move, not because life said no or someone said no, but because I never gave life or someone the chance to say anything. And this connects directly to something we talk a lot about on this podcast, which is uncertainty is possibility. Because you can only access that possibility if you're willing to step into that uncertain space to put something out before you know what's going to come back. And I wasn't doing that. I was trying to eliminate the uncertainty before I started, which meant I was also eliminating all the possibility along with it. I've been doing that for the most part of my life until these past few years, where something has shifted in me around this. And I want to share the way I think about this whole thing nowadays, which is that when I create something, put something out, reach out to someone, ask for help, propose a collaboration, launch a workshop, program, or retreat, I no longer see it as high stakes. I see the stakes as being very low and essentially nothing, because all it requires me to do is to create an Instagram post, send a message to someone, just press publish, and then I let life do the filtering. If something doesn't land, I don't feel much about it. I just try something else. Or if I really feel like that feels right, but maybe the communication wasn't too good, I will do something about it. I'll just change the way I communicate or something. And I want to be clear that this is not the same as not caring, not being self-reflective. Because as I said, when something doesn't go well, I do check in with myself to ask myself if there is something I could have done differently, but it stops there. It doesn't spiral into what it means about me. And sometimes when life says no to something, I ask myself, is this actually a no? Or does something need to be tweaked for it to be a yes? Because how life or someone responds to me is information. It is not the end of the story. And it is what I do with that information that makes a difference, right? So for example, do I just take that information as negative feedback about myself? Or do I sit with it for a while longer and check in? What is it beneath that? What is more to that? And then just stew in that space for a little while before either letting it go, working on it more, or whatever that comes that feels right. So I let life do a lot of the work. I don't sit in the paralysis of should I, shouldn't I, or would this work or would it not? I just put it out, let what comes back to me tell me something. And living this way, honestly, is so much easier because I don't feel stuck. I don't see what's coming back as a reflection of my self-worth. And this thing about letting life do the filtering, I find food searching a very interesting and helpful analogy to explain this. So you know the thing when someone asks you what you want to eat and your mind just goes blank and you genuinely don't know, and then you just say anything feels fine, you decide, right? And maybe they suggest McDonald's and immediately you're like, no, that's not it. Or they say pizza and you maybe feel like, maybe that's fine, but maybe that's not what you really want to eat. And then after you go through it for a few more rounds, you're like, actually, I really want to eat Chinese food. So the thing is, sometimes we don't really know what we want or have some barriers to sensing into what we really want until life or the person's suggestions shows us what we don't want. And that is very useful information, and information we couldn't have just by sitting with the question and sitting at the same spot. And the same thing applies to bigger decisions, like applying for jobs. Instead of spending weeks agonizing over whether to submit an application, am I ready? What if I don't get it? What if you just applied? Apply to 10 things and let those 10 things do the filtering for you. Let the company do the filtering for you, let life do the filtering for you. And maybe even as you send the application, you actually get a sense of whether you want to hear back. So you may send out an application and like, I wish they don't get back to me because I don't feel like moving to this company anyway. So not only what comes back tells you something, when you do the action itself, you are also telling yourself something. So like what feels like relief, what feels like disappointment, what feels like anticipation, all these things are information that your body can give you. And you can only get those information when you take action. Of course, ideally, we are tuned in enough with our felt sense to know exactly and clearly what we want and what we don't. And that is something that I guide clients to learn and do in therapy and coaching. But honestly, that is also not always available to us. Even me having the skills to tune into my felt sense, most of the time, like 90%, I am able to tune into what I want. But on certain days, I just really don't know what I feel like eating until my husband says, do you want to eat Max? And I'm like, no. So in these moments where tuning into our felt sense doesn't feel available, or maybe you haven't learned how to do it, letting life do the filtering is genuinely a very useful alternative. And quick and simple in a way. Your job is just to create something, prepare something, put it out, and then stay open to what comes back. I want to share a quote that my secondary school teacher used to say. This is my SS history teacher that really stayed with me and really supported me through the years. She said this, and she said it in a non-religious way. Do your best and God will do the rest. Just do your best and God will do the rest. She said it, I don't know if it's just to me and my friend, because we were always very worried about exams and stressing out and going to her for consultations. I think she said it so that we wouldn't feel so kanchong and scared all the time. But that line really just stuck with me and lands for me every single time, because there is so much that I can control and there is also so much that I cannot control. And peace, the peace that we really want, the peace and ease in life, lives somewhere in between, knowing the difference that there are some things you can control, there are some things that you can't. And then with this information of what you can control and what you can't, you know that the agency lies with you. You get to choose to lean into more of what you can control. Notice what you can't control and just be aware of that. There are some people who like to say, just focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot control. I personally don't find that very helpful for me because I can't let go of what I can't control. I get very anxious when I think of all the things that I can't control. So rather than saying let go of what I can't control, what I find more useful is to be very aware, acknowledge, and notice what I can't control and just let it be instead of let it go. Let it be somewhere in my system that, yeah, it is frustrating, isn't it? That I can't control these things. I wish I could, but the reality is I can't. So I'm gonna just put you here, these things that I can't control, and lean into what I can control. This way of interacting with myself is much more useful than forcefully trying to let go of the things that I can't control, which really just stresses me out and makes me feel more anxious. Okay, now if you've been listening to this so far and a part of you is going, Jasmine, I hear you, but I genuinely cannot do what you're describing. I just can't put things out. And there is something that stops me every time. I just can't do it. I want to speak more about that. If you feel blocked in this way, that you really have that desire, you know in your head that is the next best thing you can do for yourself, you really want to do that, but you can't, it is very likely that there is a part of you holding a fear or concern. A fear or a concern that if you do that action, something bad is going to happen to you. So if you put yourself out there, or if you ask this person out, for example, something very bad is going to happen to you. And that something bad, whatever it is to you, even if cognitively you feel like it's not going to happen or it's not a very real or tangible concern, there is something inside you that takes this possibility as very real and very large, and therefore a genuine reason not to take the next step. And it is so important that we acknowledge that this exists within you and not try to push it away, not try to do things like saying to yourself, mind over matter. It is a side point, but I really don't like this phrase, mind over matter. What we are really saying when we say mind over matter is oftentimes mind over body. But your body is not really wanting to go there because there is a genuine risk involved to a part of you, and therefore you are not going there, and that is so valid and real. Why would we just want to push through and force our minds to take over our body? That may be helpful in the short term and we might get something done, but we are forcing our body to go to a place where there isn't genuine safety. And because we are forcing this through, the next time a similar challenge comes up, we either have to do that again or we go into the space where we are stuck again. So regardless, every time we try to mind over matter, try to force ourselves to listen to our minds more than our body and force ourselves to go into unsafety, it is a short-term solution if it even works, or in the long term, it might actually put us in a place where we no longer are able to tune into what our body feels safe and keep pushing our bodies to do things that are not safe, and we just lose that connection to our sense of self, sense of safety, sense of our body awareness, and it just doesn't make sense in the long term, and it's not what I want you to go through. Instead, what I hope that you hear and take away is that when you experience this block of, okay, I really want to go there, it's good for me, but I can't, there is something inside you, there is a part of you, not the whole of you, that is stuck. There is a part of you holding a fear and a concern saying, let's not go there, it's not safe, and therefore it is threatening. Let's not do it. It really wants to keep you safe. And that part usually developed from conditioning, from past experiences, from things that made sense to protect you at a time, or even now, right? So there is no need to make that part of you and make being stuck part of your identity. So don't say something like, not don't say, it is understandable if you say, but sometimes the things that we say becomes the things that we believe. So if we keep saying things like, I'm just someone who can't do this, I am not good at that, we are unintentionally closing a door that isn't really closed. It is just requiring us to understand it further. So I'm going to suggest something that I find helps. What helps is getting curious about this part of us and trying to understand, what is it so afraid of? What does it think will happen to you if you do take that action? And how can you help it feel safe enough to let you take the next step? This is what I work through with clients in coaching and therapy. But there is also a way to do it on your own in small little ways. So for example, these questions that I just named, you could journal about it. You could talk to a trusted friend about it. And of course, you could work with a therapist on it. The thing that we should avoid doing is to over intellectualize or try to think our way through here rather than trying to connect with our body and try to understand on a bodily level. Why over intellectualizing or trying to think cognitively doesn't work is because this kind of block lives in the body and in old patterns that are stored in the body, not in the mind. And because it is a part of us that is stuck, it usually needs us to have a relationship with it in order for it to move, to soften, to understand that, hey, we are in a different context now. The thread is no longer here. In this context, it is safe to move. Once we understand that part better, we have a relationship with it, once it feels seen and less afraid, you might find that letting life be the filter becomes a lot more available to you because perhaps that part is like, okay, I am looking at the context. It feels safe enough to take a little step forward. Maybe not the whole thing, but what is the next small step we can take? And then that is your opportunity. You are putting something out there, and then you can listen to what life has in terms of feedback for you. And then things start to flow. And notice if we pause here that it is again not that we have everything figured out. We haven't. We don't even know how life is going to respond. We don't know how we are going to respond to life's response. But the first step is out. Life can be a filter because you stopped fighting within yourself. That part of you that was pulling you back, because from its perspective, keeping you safe means pulling you back, is like, okay, we can do the next thing. But do we have everything laid out? Do we have a 10-step plan? No, we don't. We still only have the next small step, and that is fine as long as internally you feel safe. There is no inner conflict between what here wants to go and what the body wants to do, and that is so good enough. And not just good enough, I feel like that is just enough, full stop. So if I could suggest an invitation for today, it is not to have it all figured out, not to know in advance what's going to work and what isn't, but either just put something small out if you feel like you're ready to do that and let life do the filtering, or do that exercise where you check in with that part of you that feels stuck. Ask the prompts and then see what comes back, and notice it is you having a relationship with a part of you. It is not the whole of you that is stuck. So these are my 2 invitations for today. It is important for us to also recognize that uncertainty isn't the obstacle here. Uncertainty is the mechanism. Uncertainty is what allows life to give you real information. And this information you cannot get by staying just inside your own head all the time. This letting life be the filter, staying open to what comes back, is one of the most practical ways I know to live this life of uncertainty is possibility. If you want to explore this more, whether it's understanding what's blocking you, building the self-trust to start putting things out, or just having a space to talk through with someone, this is the work that I do with my coaching clients and my therapy clients. If you are interested in this, the details are in my show notes, and the easiest way to reach me is always just to DM me on Instagram. So to end off, I just want to say I'd love to hear what you're going to put out this week, what you're going to try, and even what are your thoughts around what I've shared today. So good luck in letting life do the filtering. I will see you again next time. Bye.